Hey guys, so today we are going to be making a couple cards using this adorable coffee cafe. This is my favorite set out of the new annual catalog. I absolutely love it. So of course the new product I'm going to use this week, the first thing is this coffee bundle. I'm going to kind of be all over the place with this because I have you should see my desk outside this window. But we're going to make two cards because I'm going to show you two techniques or two ideas on how to use this bundle. So here are the two sample cards I've already put together. Really adorable. We'll look at this one first. So I went ahead, there are 3 coffee cups. So you have the wood grained, the solid tall one. That's 2 cups, but you can add the flat lid or the dome lid to make it 3 different types of cups. So here I made the shorter coffee cup and then your cold drink coffee cup, and I wanted to do this with you. I'm going to show you how I did this with some vellum, and then I used the pretty burlap ribbon that is new this annual catalog, and of course the gorgeous DSP. So here is the first sample card. The second sample card was used with the DSP. This paper, and if you saw my haul video, you would have already seen this, but these little things come from this paper. Now there is a die, if you see these little to-go coffee cups, so these right here, there is a die in the bundle that cuts these out. So I cut these out with the die, but then these, the French press, the coffee pot, and the cup, I fussy cut, and they're really easy to fussy cut. I am not necessarily a fan of fussy cutting. I like the finished look of a die, but these actually were pretty easy and they look really good. They don't look like they were fussy cut out. So this paper you can use for a lot of different designs. I just love it, and I love that the die cuts these out. Now if you're wondering, well, what if I don't have any more paper and I'm stuck with this die? Well, I've seen online, and here is the die right here. I've seen online people, they die cut it out and they color their own little coffee cup and make their own little design. You have a couple small images in here. This one says hi, that you can do that with, or stamp it with coffee beans, or just color it and shade it nicely where it looks like a coffee to-go cup. So there are different options if you are out of the DSP. So that is that card, and I stamped Life Happens, Coffee Helps, and I actually used the die. This is the coffee sleeve die. So I just used it as my sentiment piece, and then I have a doily, and then a little piece of burlap that was actually left over from my bow that I used. So these are the 2 sample cards. For the first card we're going to make, we are going to need the burlap ribbon, and all supplies will be listed below. I have my lace doilies. These are called the delicate white doilies. I have a piece of crumb cake to create an A2 size side folding card. And then I have my DSP already cut. This is the wood grain. Of course, use whatever pattern you prefer. And I cut this at 5 and, what did I cut this at? 1/8 of an inch shorter than an A2 size card. That's just easier for me to say. So you get this tiny little peek of the crumb cake. And then I just made a 2-inch strip of this and then a 1-inch strip of this because I'm going to be designing it somehow like this. Then you're going to need your banner triple punch because I'm going to banner the ends of these. And then, of course, your stamp set. The ink colors I will tell you as I go because I'm going to kind of wing it with you guys and make it as I go. Oh, and you will need Whisper White cardstock, and I have some scraps here that I'm going to cut and stamp my coffee cup out of. All right, for the first card, Basic Black and Garden Green are the colors we're going to use right now. This may be it. I may bring in more, though. So let's go ahead and take our card piece, our card base, and then our DSP, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to my card base. And then I want to go ahead and take my 2 pieces of DSP, and I'm just going to go ahead and take my banner triple punch and go ahead and cut. And I'm just kind of eyeing it. It's what I think might work. And we're just going to kind of trim it. Of course, you could do this in a trimmer if you're really particular. I'm just going to hope for the best. So something like that. A lot of it's going to be covered anyway, so it's not a big deal. And then I did want to incorporate my doily somehow. Maybe like that, and then we'll bring in my burlap. So I don't want to adhere any of this down until I'm done with my die cutting. So let's go ahead and take our Whisper White, our scraps, and I'm going to take my lid, and ink it up in basic black. And then I'm going to keep my basic black out. Let me trim this. Because I need to ink up my cup. Now my stamp is hollow in the center. It's open. Now with this, it loses its shape. So if you take it off of the backing and you put it on here, on your stamping block, more than likely the shape is going to be distorted. So with these types of stamps, you want to just drop it, let it regain its shape, and pick it up with your acrylic block. You don't ever want to take it up and then stick it on here because more than likely it's not going to be straight. So let it regain its shape, then pick it up. And then I'm going to ink it up in the basic black. Stamp that. And then I'm going to take the garden green and I'm stamping out Thanks a Latte. I really like this stamp, and the garden green is so pretty. It coordinates with the paper. Now the stamp set has a die in here. It is this one right here, and it embosses. It cuts the outline and embosses. You also have a die here. This is a cup sleeve. You have a die here that just gives you a normal, no embossing. It just cuts out the coffee sleeve. So I used the embossing one, and I used a piece of crumb cake to cut it out. So I don't know if you can see that, but it gives a little bit of an embossing texture. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the dies here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out my images. Now, if you wanted to, with this cup, you could stamp out this sentiment. Happiness is a cup of coffee shared with a friend. It fits on here just as I did with this because that's the same stamp. I'm going to leave it blank though because I want to adhere my crumb cake coffee sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and add some tape adhesive and adhere this down. And then for this, I'm just going to take glue dots because it's quicker and easier, and just add a few towards the bottom. And then add this right here. So it looks like that. And then I'm going to take a Stampin' Dimensional, add that to my sentiments, and put this in the center. Now let's bring back in my piece, my card, and all right. So let's go ahead and adhere our doily down. And then next, I'm going to adhere the bigger banner, pin it, or whatever you want to call it, down. And then I'm just going to take a piece of this ribbon. I like the texture of this burlap ribbon. And we're just going to do this. And then, since glue dots have a strong hold, you can also use fast fuse. That would work. I'm just going to add glue dots to the bottom here. And then take this piece here like that. There we go. The suite has embellishments that go with this. I actually ordered them. They haven't come yet. So you can get some corrugated hearts, stars, and I think circles or ovals. So next I'm going to take my little coffee mug. And if you don't drink coffee, you can use, this is hot cocoa. Granted, the sentiments are coffee related, but you know, you can use it as cocoa if you want, the whipped cream and all that. So here is the first card. Isn't it adorable? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I just love this so much. I could make cards with this set all day. I may have to stock up on the DSP and just hoard it. So that is card number 1. Let's move on to card 2. All right, before we move to the second card, I forgot. I wanted to show you guys this. This die right here is the splash guard that you get if you get a coffee or a hot cocoa or whatever. So I went ahead and took some Soft Sky ink. I actually did ink and wiped it on some white cardstock. But you can use Soft Sky paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a glue dot to the bottom portion, the front. And I'm going to go ahead, of course this will be easier if you did it before you attach your card down, but attach it right there. And that way the cup has a little splash guard. I forgot I wanted to show you that, so take care of that real quick. All right, so moving on to our next card. I have a piece of garden green cardstock for my card base, a strip of garden green cardstock, my 2 pieces of DSP that I've cut down. This one I've cut 1/8 of an inch less, and this one I just kind of judged it. I think this is 3.5 by 4.5 or 4 3/4. So you will need that, and I have a scrap piece of vellum. You will need white embossing powder, your stamping dimensionals, and for the inks I'm using basic black and garden green. So I went ahead and stuck this in my MISTI. You don't need a MISTI to do this. I originally was going to use my early espresso because I think that ink color is running low. I need to add some ink to it. So since it's already in my MISTI, I'm just keeping it there even though I no longer need it. The MISTI is great for stamping multiple times in the same position. So I took basic black and I stamped my cup outline. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sentiment and I'm going to line it up in here. And I'm going to use garden green to stamp this down. Oops. Forget how juicy these ink pads are, and I just smushed that. Hopefully I don't get it on my white cardstock. Paranoid to push down on it. All right, that looks great. All right, I've gone ahead and adhered my die down for my cup. Now there is a stamp. This is for the straw. There's a stamp right here. It's just an outline stamp. You have the little striped straw, which I used for this one. But I thought it'd be fun to use just the die. And I'm going to do it in green because it's kind of like a Starbucks straw. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down. And we'll cut it out when I cut everything else out. Put that aside. Next, I'm going to take my piece of vellum, and you will need your Versamark. I'm going to take my Emboss It bag and get rid of any oils or anything like that. Take my cup, my dome shape, and remember this is you know, an outline. So again, plop it down, pick it up with your stamp block. I go ahead and stamp my vellum. And then add my white embossing powder. Now this vellum is not Stampin' Up! Vellum. I actually don't have Stampin' Up! Vellum. I have a ton in my stash, and so until that's used up. I'm not going to buy any more. But for vellum, you want to heat up your tool gun, your heat gun, and then what I do is I heat it up and then I go back and forth until I see it start to melt. Now, if this was regular cardstock, I typically hold it in one spot. Well, you can try that. I don't want to take any chances on burning my vellum. So I heat up my gun and I go back and forth, and then once it starts melting, I then hold it and I keep moving. And as soon as it's melted, move on, because it will burn so quick. You have a small window. So we're going to go ahead and heat this up. So I'm going to let that cool a little bit before I take the die and place that down. Now, in our stamp set, there is also a whipped cream stamp. You can use that, or you can just use the die. I'm just going to use the die and cut it from some white cardstock. All right, so here are my pieces. Now, I want to mention with the vellum, you don't have to stamp it and emboss it. You could just cut it out with the die. I just like to add a little bit of definition to the cup, but that's totally your call. And the reason why I did it in vellum is so you can see through it. It looks like an actual to-go cup. So let's go ahead and put our pieces together. I'm going to take this bigger piece of DSP and adhere it to my card base. And then I'm going to take this smaller piece and put it in the center. You can, of course, put it sideways, however you want, but since I kind of did a couple that are kind of wonky, I'm going to do mine straight up and down. Now I'm going to put that aside and take these pieces, and what I first want to do is adhere my to-go cup. Actually, let's do our little whipped cream. I'm going to take glue dots again and just adhere them towards the bottom. And I'll show you once I do that, like this. They're the bottom. And just adhere that down like that. It's okay if a few show through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fine tip glue pen and very carefully add a strip of glue to the bottom here. Very little bit. You don't need a lot at all. And then I'm going to adhere my vellum. And I'm trying to get that white embossed line on top of that glue. That way you don't see any adhesive. And we're just going to stick that down there for a second. And then we're just going to add, just to make it easy, since this is a little bit narrower for my tape adhesive, I'm just going to add a few glue dots. And then we will adhere this to the back like that. And I want to make sure my straw is coming out the top and not to the side, since an actual cup would have the hole at the top. So add Stampin' Dimensionals to this. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is, I think I'm going to take a piece of burlap and just kind of add it right there, just to give some separation between the pattern paper and my coffee mug. Oops, cut that totally slanted. And so I'm going to take some fast fuse and then just run it across here. Stick this down. And then I'm just going to trim off the edges. And here is our second card. I just love it. So I apologize if this video was long. I just wanted to show you what you can do with this set. I could go on and on and on. I love it. I love the look. I love the stamps. I adore the DSP. Let me know what your favorite card was. I always like knowing what your favorite card was, what you prefer in design and style. And I would so appreciate your business if you don't have a demonstrator and you are interested in this suite. All the supplies will be listed below, and I Would love if you were one of my customers. Remember, with a $75 purchase and you use the Hostess code below, you will receive a free sampling of the Fresh Florals DSP. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for sticking with this long video, and I'll catch you guys next time.